He'll bring you a microphone, and I'd like to answer a couple more questions, and I know the hour grows late. Yes?
Thank you, Senator. I read a poll today that said that 60%, I believe, of military families don't believe that the Iraq war justifies the cost. How do you expect to justify sort of tough talk that you give about Iran, especially in light of the NIE findings that they've suspended their nuclear weapons program?
Well, first of all, I always like it when they start, a fact is presented as a fact. I don't accept that or believe it. In all due respect, ma'am, I know the military. I hear from them by the thousands. I know them. I just came back from spending Thanksgiving with them in Iraq. So I categorically reject that assertion, and I will not accept it. Young people are working that are serving, and I'll tell you, they know they're succeeding. They know they're succeeding, and so I know that for a fact. So you and I just have a difference of opinion, and I respect yours. But go ahead, you can go ahead.
It was a poll that was taken.
I don't care if it's a banana. I don't believe it. Okay. I know them too well, ma'am. I have spent too many years in the military and associated with the military, so we just have a disagreement with the poll, okay? So, as far as Iran is concerned, I'm glad that the news may be that Iran has stopped the weaponization part of their nuclear efforts to acquire nuclear weapons. They have not stopped their enrichment part. But let's suppose that there has been some change, and I want to look under the hood and see what intelligence there was that caused this change in the NIE. But the following are facts as I know them. The Iranians are still committed to the extinction of the State of Israel, and that's their government policy. The Iranians are still exporting the most lethal explosive devices across the Iraqi border and into Iraq and killing brave young Americans. And Iran is still supporting terrorist organizations such as Hezbollah and Hamas. So if they want to communicate with us and we want to communicate with them, fine. We all have BlackBerries, it's fine. But the fact is that Iran has to go through significantly more changes in their policy, their attitude, and their behavior before I am ready to embrace them, although, as I've said all along, I would continue to pursue diplomatic and trade and other efforts before I would ever initiate a military action. But I still believe that Iran cannot be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons because of the threat that they are in the region. And now you're free to reply again. Please do so.
As a member of a former serving military member, served overseas as a captain in the Navy, to say that, you know, these people don't believe that is just sort of hard to take. I mean, the costs have been enormous, not only for everybody in this room, but especially for the family members of people that have served overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I'm familiar with that.
Absolutely. And so to say that, you know, that they just don't, especially when polls tell us that they do, they don't believe that the wars justify the costs. And I don't really understand how you would go about justifying the cost of a future war in another very hard, difficult place with potentially very bad weapons to send their sons and daughters, mothers and fathers. I just don't understand.
Well, we have a fundamental misunderstanding, ma'am, about what the challenges to America's national security are, and I respect your opinion, and I understand your frustration, because as I mentioned at least 10 or 12 times in our conversation, we mishandled the situation in Iraq very badly. And I would be repetitive if I talked again about Iran's desire for the extermination of the State of Israel, their stated policy. I don't want to have to repeat the fact that they are still exporting explosive devices that are killing young Americans. I care about young Americans just as you do. And I again repeat that if Iran acquired nuclear weapons, which they may still be able to do, then I think that would have serious consequences. And finally, could I say, nobody hates war more than the veteran. Nobody hates war more than those who have experienced the loss of a comrade. I think there's a lot of us in this room that understand the cost of war. But there are worse things than war, unfortunately. And we found that out in the rise of Hitler, and we found out at other times in history that there are times when tragically it is a necessary action to take. but no one understands it better than the veteran. Thank you very much for your time. I know it's getting late. Could I do one more? Yes, ma'am. He'll come over there with the microphone.